In the news this week, scientists have discovered a piece of human jawbone in a cave in Israel. By human, I mean Homo sapien, one of these. The jawbone is between 180 and 190,000 years old. It's the oldest human found outside of Africa ever. Why is this a big deal? Because it completely changes the time frame to when we thought humans left Africa. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa about 300,000 years ago from Homo heidelbergensis. Until recently we thought we remained in Africa for at least 200,000 years and only started leaving about 80,000 years ago. But now it looks like it was at least 100,000 years earlier. It's known that Neanderthals existed in Europe and Asia long before humans ever arrived, so there were suspicions that this jawbone may not be human. So the scientists actually sent it on a world tour so all the other scientists could get a good look at it and confirm with their very own eyes that it was actually Homo sapien. The jawbone itself was actually discovered by a first-year student at Tel Aviv University on his first ever dig. Talk about beginner's luck. The Israel jawbone is not the only piece of evidence we have for early human migration out of Africa. It fits in with recent genetic studies which also suggest we left Africa earlier than previously thought. Scientists have been studying the DNA from a Neanderthal bone found in a cave in Germany. In all of this, it's important to realise that our ancestors have been migrating out of Africa for at least 2 million years. Homo heidelbergensis evolved in Africa roughly 600,000 years ago and started leaving Africa for Asia and Europe relatively soon afterwards. The Neanderthals evolved from Homo heidelbergensis in Europe and Asia about 450,000 years ago. And Neanderthal bones have been found in a Spanish cave which have been dated to 430,000 years ago. So, back to the Neanderthal bone in the German cave. The DNA contained a mixture of Neanderthal DNA and human DNA, which showed that Neanderthals in Europe had bred with humans, and also that early humans had left Africa at least 270,000 years ago. Now, this particular group of early humans died out, but having bred with the Neanderthals, their DNA was passed down from generation to generation of Neanderthal and then discovered in this Neanderthal bone in the German cave. So now we think that humans started leaving Africa not 70 or 80,000 years ago, but 270,000 years ago. And it makes sense. As many scientists have pointed out, if humans evolved in Africa 300,000 years ago, why didn't they start leaving straight away? Africa is physically joined to Europe and Asia, where present-day Egypt is. You can just walk out through Egypt into what is present-day Israel and Palestine, through Lebanon, through Syria and into Turkey. It's not something I'd recommend you try today, but it can be done. Now, the Neanderthals died out around 40,000 years ago. However, if you think you're not related to Neanderthals, think again. Yes, that particular group of early humans who entered Europe about 270,000 years ago may have died out, but subsequent humans entering Europe also bred with Neanderthals. And modern day Europeans have around 2% Neanderthal DNA. So if you're European, you're a Neanderthal. The Homo heidelbergensis that entered Europe around 500 to 600,000 years ago evolved into Neanderthals in Europe. However, the ones that headed east into Asia evolved into Denisovans. There's a cave in Siberia called the Denisova cave. It's called the Denisova cave because in the 18th century it was occupied by a hermit called Denis. I'm not making this up. In the Denisova cave they found a finger bone and a tooth which contained DNA that was neither human nor Neanderthal, but closely related to both. They discovered a new branch of our family tree, and these guys are the Denisovans. Today, around 4% of the DNA of Melanesians and Aboriginal Australians is Denisovan. So that should give you an idea of the latest thinking about human history. Let's finish this video by knocking up a quick timeline. Okay, so here it is in all its fairly complicated glory. This represents the latest picture that scientists have of human evolution. So it's not definitely true, it's just the most up-to-date view that scientists have of what probably happened. Okay, so where should we start? Well, here's a million years ago. A million years ago we had Homo erectus wandering around Africa. Now he's been around for nearly 2 million years, and it was from Homo erectus that Homo heidelbergensis evolved in Africa about 600,000 years ago. Now he started leaving Africa fairly soon afterwards, sometime in this period here, and evolved into Neanderthals in Europe, and the ones that headed east evolved into Denisovans in Asia. The Homo heidelbergensis that remained behind in Africa evolved into us, Homo sapiens. So the further back you go in time, the less evolved these creatures are. So Homo sapien, one of these, walks like this. You go back to Neanderthals, they look fairly similar to us, but you can see differences. They're more stocky and they're a bit more sort of like that. Same with Denisovans. You go back even further, Homo heidelbergensis, even more sort of, if you just go on the internet and look at pictures of these guys, you can see how they change through time. Then all the way back to Homo erectus, and you've got so you can see the changes if you look at the pictures. So I've marked here the points that I was talking about in the video. At 180 to 190,000 years old is that human jawbone that was found in the cave in Israel. And here at 270,000 years, that's the age that the Neanderthal bone that contained human DNA that was found in the German cave. So that showed that humans and Neanderthals had bred, and that happened 270,000 years ago, placing humans in Europe at least 270,000 years ago, a lot earlier than what we thought until recently, which was only about sort of 70, 80, 90, that sort of time ago. So these dotted lines I've marked here, it shows how long that particular chap survived. So Homo erectus, he was actually around until only relatively recently, 140,000 years ago, from nearly 2 million years ago. Homo heidelbergensis survived until 200,000 years ago. Neanderthals and Denisovans, they had a pretty good innings. They survived until as recently as 40,000 years ago, which is pretty good. Although there are rumours that some Neanderthals can still be found in Lancashire, but I can't confirm that for sure. So there it is. That is the latest picture that we have, most up-to-date thinking of human evolution.